This is an emergency alert system message. Continue watching for important instructions.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has announced that a new viral outbreak has been detected in multiple cities across the country. The virus, which first surfaced last week, is listed as highly contagious.
When it first started, we thought it was just another flu surge.
The cities were hit the hardest. It was like wildfire. They were just consumed. Before we knew it, they were gone.
The death toll continues to rise in what some health officials are calling the worst pandemic since the deadly 1918 flu outbreak.
Humanity experiences a pandemic every 40 to 60 years. But this time we knew it was different. It was malicious. We'd never seen anything like it. It went straight for the central nervous system, and if it didn't kill you, it would paralyze you.
Today, alarm is growing that the global flu crisis may be out of control, with reports of hundreds of thousands of cases across Europe, South America, Russia, and even as far afield as Africa.
Nothing could have prepared us for what happened. Millions dead in a matter of weeks, billions across the globe. America was devastated. Nowhere was spared.
Many people in the Los Angeles area are defying orders to stay home and are spontaneously evacuating, causing massive traffic jams and preventing emergency vehicles from responding to calls.
It all happened so quickly. We tried to contain it with ring quarantines and curfews, but friends and family just compromised our plans and our controls. It was like a chain reaction.
My parents and my brother died of the flu. So did my aunts and my uncles and my grandparents. The social workers found a cousin who lived in Idaho, and I went to live with them.
The World Health Organization has confirmed that the recent pandemic has been upgraded to Phase 6, meaning that the recently emerged disease has spread to most regions across the globe.
We had a good, solid emergency plan. That's what we thought. We didn't anticipate this. This hit everywhere. It was all around us for months.
I remember the health department tried to get people to take precautions, like washing their hands, staying home.
Standard antivirals didn't work against this. Nothing worked against this.
We did everything the health department asked us to. We shut the schools, canceled events, urged people to stay at home. Nothing seemed to work.
People started wearing masks. Dust masks or handkerchiefs tied around their faces or even respirators, but none of these could ever do any good.
We started running low on masks and gloves. I even heard that some of the masks and medical shipments were being stolen.
Everywhere we went, we saw people wearing paper masks. My mom made us wear cloth masks around our faces every time we went to the store.
We were completely overwhelmed. There were just so many people coming into the hospital. People were lined up outside the hospital just trying to get in. Then security put us on lockdown. They closed the hospital to new patients. I thought there was going to be a riot out there.
As government officials were forced to admit global efforts to control the pandemic are unsuccessful, hospitals in several major cities in the U.S. have reported an unprecedented surge in new cases.
We heard officials on the news say that they were going to be able to contain the outbreak. I knew it wasn't true.
We declared a state of emergency. Most of our staff were out sick, or they just didn't show up.
We tried to get the local churches to cancel services because people were coming together and spreading the disease. Some closed their doors, some didn't.
We were low on staff. They were either sick or trying to be with their own families.
We lost so many good people. We tried. I'm sorry.
China has closed its borders as a result of the spreading global pandemic. Officials in Beijing have yet to release any information of the number of people affected by the deadly virus.
One of the symptoms was the formation of large red blisters on the skin and the coughing of blood. That's why the media started calling it the Red Death.
Somebody at the health department finally came up with the idea of setting up a treatment center at the local train station. I guess it was better than nothing. We just didn't have the supplies to treat so many patients.
The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has confirmed that the Red Death pandemic that has swept the globe was artificially produced and most likely the work of an undetermined terrorist group.
It took us, working with a team from Fort Detrick, about 2 months to determine that the pathogen was artificial and had been released in what was then the last United Nations General Assembly. From then, it went out to every center of government across the globe.
We've just learned that the President and remaining cabinet members have been evacuated to an undisclosed location. Government operations in Washington, D.C. have come to a virtual standstill as workers are either sick or just not reporting for work.
World financial markets took another dive today, and some experts are predicting a complete collapse in the wake of the Red Death global pandemic.
I remember my dad went to the ATM to get some money, but it didn't work. He got real mad and kind of scared too.
We heard the big cities were hit the hardest. Food ran out real fast. Water was real low. People from the cities came to the countryside. We didn't know where to put them all.
The stores ran out of stuff right away. Food, water, all kinds of supplies.
Gasoline is beginning to be in short supply as ports are closed and ships are turned away. Federal officials are vowing to tap into these strategic petroleum reserves, but say fuel rationing may be necessary.
The city was in chaos. Food riots were breaking out. Someone even tried to rob the hospital at gunpoint for food and medical supplies.
With no trucks running, there were no deliveries of anything. There were no delivery of food, no clothes, no gasoline.
My brother had a video camera. He would tape what food supplies we had. He called it our pandemic supplies. He got sick and died a little while later.
He and the farm fields. No power to run the irrigation system. No fuel for the machines to harvest anything that was left in the fields. And most important, no people.
Feeding people who survived the first wave became a problem. We didn't have food to feed these people. What were we to do?
6 of the top 10 insurance companies filed for bankruptcy this week, claiming that they could never pay the volume of insurance claims being submitted across the globe.
So many people died. There were just so many bodies. We didn't know what to do with all the bodies.
So many people died. We just didn't have a way to bury them all.
I remember looking out the window and seeing our neighbor, Mr. Jacobson, burying his wife in the yard.
I mean, we had plans for a mass fatality event, but never imagined something like this.
We started storing the bodies at the local ice rink. It worked out fine. And then the power went out.
We finally made the hard decisions about what to do.
With all the casualties, governments, utilities, media, the National Guard just collapsed.
Some of the smaller towns decided to isolate themselves. They set up roadblocks, they hoarded food. They wouldn't let anybody in.
The public works guys told me the power plants had lost so many people to the Red Death, they couldn't keep the plants operating. When the lights went out, that's when things really got crazy.
The then one day, I turned the faucet on and no water came out.
We lost so many people we couldn't keep the water treatment plants running.
That's when the first cases of cholera started showing up.
First my brother died, then my dad died, and then my mom died. I didn't really know what to do, so I stayed in the house until some men in plastic suits showed up and pounded on the door.
After all this time on our own, the feds suddenly appear and want my assets so they can redistribute them for the greater good. No, not while I still have people that have needs.
The town where my cousin lived got really religious. It was all run by some local preacher. You had to go to church every morning before you all ate in a big room. If you didn't go to church, you went hungry.
The virus finally burned itself out, but by then, oh, we had other problems.
Fighting continues across much of Sudan and destabilized Central Africa, where ethnic cleansing continues in the wake of the Red Death plague. And North Korea has continued to take advantage of the global pandemic by building up troops and arms along the border with South Korea.
In the urban areas, gangs adapted. One day, they were sitting on a corner selling drugs. The next, they were in warehouses, the nearest industrial parks, selling gasoline, insulin, food, water, security, you name it.
When the last outbreak was finally over, we were in pretty bad shape.
In a rare news conference today, the World Health Organization stated that the global pandemic death toll was estimated to be approximately 1.6 billion people, with an additional 1 billion permanently incapacitated by the deadly disease.
My son and 2 grandchildren died.
I lost my entire family.
I lost 2 brothers, a niece, and my favorite nephew.
My wife died. My sister died. My son died. I just don't understand why we weren't better prepared for something like this.